To launch today, the podcast focused on what it takes to get your startup or new business to $1 million or more in revenue. From marketing tactics to incredible guest interviews, we focus on sharing behind-the-scenes insight from masters in their field. If you want to grow the revenue for your startup or your business, don't miss today, because today's guest is a pioneering media entrepreneur who transformed from Emmy-winning sportscaster to cannabis industry influencer. Jimmy Young is an Emmy award-winning producer and veteran broadcaster who founded Pro Cannabis Media, creating a vital platform for education and normalization in a highly regulated emerging industry. With over 40 years of media experience and a passion for bringing transparency to the cannabis space, Jimmy has navigated the complex intersection of media, regulation, and entrepreneurship in what many call the Wild West of new markets. Jimmy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I love talking, as you probably figured out already.
The first question I always like to ask is, why do you do what you do?
Okay. So you said we had 30 minutes. Is that what you said? Why do I do what I do? Because a friend of mine once said to me, do what you do best. Do what you do best. I used to coach in soccer, and we used to put players in positions to succeed. So as a coach, you always want to put your employees, your partners in positions where they can excel, they can overperform, if you will. And I've always felt that my greatest skill as a teacher and a coach was a talk show host. So I like to think of myself as a talk show host who also can teach you how to host your own podcast and how to create it and make it worthwhile.
So you're usually on the other side of the mic. How do you find it being on this side?
I love it because I don't really have to think. And I always say this to people, oh, you're such a great salesperson. I'm like, I'm a horrible salesperson. I'm a storyteller. Storytelling is part of sales, but it doesn't include follow-up, listening skills, and organization skills, which, by the way, I'm horrible at all three. So you know what I'm saying? And I have had some success. I've had a lot of success, actually, on the sales side of things in media, but I'm 67 years old now. I really don't want to get back in. When I sell something, here's what it costs. No negotiation. This is a great deal. I'm going to overperform for you. So take it. It's a good deal. And trust me when I tell you everything we put out there now, I'm amazed at the following that we've been able to develop over the last 4 years with absolutely zero invested in marketing.
That's pretty impressive.
I don't have the money to invest in the marketing side. It was a pretty easy decision to make. And so it's all organic. We've had 1.3 million views of our work on our YouTube channel over those 4 years. We have 15,300 subscribers on our YouTube channel. I only quote YouTube numbers because I'm an old television guy. And that's the closest thing to TV. And I really do believe, and when I teach young people this, if it's produced like TV, looks like TV, it's TV. It's just being distributed differently now.
I like that. That's good. I think TV and new media is a whole change from how it used to be. There are tons of shows produced today. I watch people like LTT Tech on YouTube, or tons of cooks like Babish or Anti-Chef that look the same quality as what you would have seen on broadcast media 15 years ago. But they're done by one person with a camera, a mic, a light setup, and a passion for communicating.
Yes, I do. And I teach communication. I have an oral communication curriculum that I taught to young people ages 10 to 18 when I had my first company in 08 to 13, where we were teaching Generation Text how to talk using TV broadcast skills acquired over a 30-year career back then. And we were live streaming inside a radio studio over the air in 09 onto the home page of my website. I had an 18-year-old savant as a chief technical officer. I recruited him right out of his high school class. And I said, would you be interested in being a chief technical officer for my new little business? And he goes, Yep. And I said, you bring your dad down to my studio on Sunday. We'll talk. And he was with me for 5 years and he was terrific. And where he worked, first of all, his dad wanted him to go to college. And I go, why? Why do you want him to go to college? He has hireable skills right now. Don't send him to college. Save your money. Let him, he's already got a job. Now he's going to have 5 years experience with me. He'll get a job. You know where he works now? NBC Universal.
There you go.
And I'm very proud of the well over 200 young people that I trained in that studio. In fact, earned an Emmy nomination for a show that I produced during that time with Just Kids. So I know what I'm doing when it comes to putting stories together or audio video programming. So at least I think I do, and I still do it. And that's why I do it, is it's a labor of love. So that I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So you're in a regulated space now, and
You
many
think?
founders working in regulated spaces, one of the things they have to balance is you've got compliance and you've got growth, and they sometimes work at cross purposes. What are you doing with your Pro Cannabis Media to stay inside the bounds of what's allowable while still growing on platforms that kind of don't want you? YouTube's not super pot friendly.
Right. So we call that censorship. Okay. Let's be honest. That's what it is. And when the lawmakers of the United States decided to allow the social media platforms to hide behind the First Amendment, they gave them the keys to the asylum and allowed them to censor what they think is worth putting on their platforms and not. And I got to tell you, it freaked out a lot of people. And still in this industry, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we've never had our Instagram handle taken down, nor do I use it that much at all, actually.
There you go. That's an easy way to do it.
Here's the thing about that compliance and the censorship. They can't censor you if you're live. Did you know that? They can't.
Okay.
They can't. It's impossible. They can pull the plug while you're live. They certainly can do that. But that means some AI bot somewhere has to be monitoring it live. And I have yet to see anything like that. That being said, we're very conscious of no partaking on camera. I do a news show, which is it's based on educating people the different laws and information that come from the different states and Canada. I have a Canadian correspondent and also Europe now too, and the UK and a hemp reporter. So we've expanded quite a bit beyond just the cannabis space right now. And I do see a trend towards creating a hemp report, which we have, and a hemp news, which we could develop. And the same thing in the international field, because there's so many different rules and regs in different countries now that having 4 or 5 different reporters from all over the world has some girth to it. It'd be a good show. The thing about this industry is everyone in the world has an opinion about the plant. Everyone. Doesn't have to be a positive opinion. It can be a negative opinion. It can be a dare generation person or, oh, don't get me near that. I had a bad experience when I was a kid or whatever it is. I don't push it on anybody. I just want to educate them about the benefits that you can get from this plant if you consume it responsibly. And you can make that same speech 40 years ago for wine or alcohol, which we all think is poison, which in general it is, but it has become such a part of our world. We accept it. It's normalized. And that's my goal for cannabis, is to see the normalization and acceptance of this plant medicine. It's not for everybody, but my goodness gracious, you know how many people I've talked to? Over 750 interviews, by the way, that say, they all don't say this, but I've heard it many times, and I'm going to guess you have too. Cannabis saved my life. Cannabis changed my life. People that were on opioids got off it. There's actually a book by Dr. Uma Anabalan called The Exit Drug. We've got, this is a new one. I'm going to give her a quick plug. This is a new book, Reefer Wellness. Is it backwards? Is it backwards?
No, it's backwards for you. It's normal for me. So.
Okay, good for enough. So it's Reefer Wellness by
Reefer
Dr.
Wellness
Wiley
instead of
Twerk.
Reefer Madness.
This is a hard
cover.
Yeah.
There's money in that.
Not only is it money, it's expensive too. It's $32 according to this, and $42 Canada. Just in case thought I'd throw that in. It's right there. But anyway, I hope that answers some of your questions. But I read anytime that we have a new sponsor from a new state, I read the marketing guidelines in that state. And most of them all say a lot of the same things. No calls to action, no 2-for-1 joints, but at 5 o'clock, no happy hours. Okay. But you can, for more information, go onto the web.
There you go.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it should be, for crying out loud. And if I even had to, with a New York dispensary, I put a 10-second disclaimer on it because that was part of their regulations. And to be honest, it's very smart, because if you watch any American television and you see any of the big pharma ads that are out there, every single one of them has a side effect. Don't take this if you're allergic to it. And by the way, how do you find out if you're allergic to it unless you take it? I'm just call me crazy, but you don't take a test for Ozempic, do you? Anyway, I get to go off on tangents.
Sure thing. So let me ask you, 1.2 million, I think you said, views, right?
1.3 plus.
1.3, I
Yep.
beg your pardon.
That's all right.
This requires some unconventional tactics to reach this level of success.
Yes.
What have you done to manage to succeed despite a market that doesn't really want you there?
Click the box that says no monetization.
Okay.
How's that? Okay. Because otherwise they will put a thumbnail up that says not appropriate for under 18. And every time, it's only happened 2 or 3 times, but every time that happens, I appeal it and win, because I try to explain to them. I said, what you're saying though, with your not appropriate for under 18, is we don't want to educate our young people about this plant. And it's okay for a 18, 19 or 20-year-old to use an over 21-year-old over 21 product. Makes no sense. If you're going to put a thumbnail up and blocked content, make it over 21. I grew up, by the way, when the drinking age was 18, and I moved into college on my 18th birthday.
There you go.
And guess what? When I turned 21, it went up to 21. So I've always felt that God was looking out after me. You know what I'm saying? He wants me to enjoy my life and use these things to have fun. And I have. So there you go.
So let me ask you, your background as a Emmy award-winning producer, right? Somebody in the sports media, is an unusual one for somebody who's now an entrepreneur in any space, here in the cannabis space. What about being a producer, being somebody who makes content, a speaker, any of these things, prepares you for being a founder and an entrepreneur?
I think that's a way of thinking more than anything else. I don't know if there is any preparation for it other than to actually experience it. And by the way, I'm big on experiential learning. That's how I teach on-camera performance. Get on camera, record it, listen to yourself. You're not going to know what you hear because nobody likes what they sound like recorded, right? And I guarantee that you'll never be as bad or as good as you are on the first time you're on camera, because the second, third, and fourth time, you're going to get better and better every time you do it. And by the time you get to 10,000, it becomes really rote and routine. So there's no difference. If you met me on the streets or at a bar somewhere or at an event, there's no difference between my personality now and what I'm like in real life. It took me quite a long time to get there. At this point in my life, I'm not changing.
I feel you. I did theater for years, and because of that, the plastic eye holds no fear for me when I've done a performance in front of 1,000 people before. It's a whole different level of stress.
Right. And I'm more comfortable with a camera than I am in front of live audiences. However,
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to be in the middle of 15,000 people. I think there were 10,000. I introduced Aerosmith at a concert once, and I couldn't use the name. I couldn't say Aerosmith because those were one of the rules. But I said, how am I going to introduce the band if I don't say, here's Aerosmith? Isn't that the most basic thing?
Yeah.
So the concert it went from an outdoor venue into an indoor venue because of some reason, probably weather related or whatever. So I basically got up on the stage and said, who needs the beach? Because it was supposed to be at Old Orchard Beach, which, by the way, is a very favorite place for old Canadians. They come down there in the summertime. Anyway, who needs the beach? And everyone goes, yeah. And I said, who are you here to see? Aerosmith. The whole crowd goes, Aerosmith. I go, let's get him up there or something like that. And I left. That was it. That was how I did it.
There you go. There you go.
Sorry, I digress.
Cool.
I have lots of stories, by the way, lots of.
Hey, as you've mentioned, you're a storyteller.
Yes, I am.
So a lot of founders struggle with timing. A lot of ideas launch too early or too late and
Oh
die
yeah.
on the vine.
Oh yeah.
What signals indicated to you that the time was right to launch Pro Cannabis Media?
It
And what would
hasn't
you
been.
give another founder as like a rubric for how to do this?
Don't. It's a rubric.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I'll be perfectly honest. I was naive going in. I had no idea about the compliance issues. I'll admit that I was a regular user of the product since I was 14. Now, I took 10 years off when my 34-year-old son was born, and I was straight for 10 years. And then I started to have some challenges with my body and had to go back. I needed to escape because of the chronic pain that I was developing. I've had 5 major surgeries since I turned 42. My last competitive soccer match was at age 42, which, if you
There you
do the
go.
math, is 25 years ago. And I've had 3 body parts replaced, and I had 2 replaced last year alone, left shoulder and my right hip. And at least they were 10 months apart. That's the way I look at it. But it's been quite a journey. And yes, I use it for that chronic pain. And when my mind is busy during the day, I certainly don't notice the pain unless I pick up something or move abruptly or something. But it is something I like to use because I want to be able to sleep at night. And now some of these minor cannabinoids like CBN are designed to help you sleep. And I say designed, they're actually grown. Design would mean synthetic, and I don't want to talk about synthetic. Okay. You can ask me if you want, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, as you've been working in this space, I don't think you showed up in the truly Wild West days of once we started to make cannabis legal, but there's been some stuff.
Okay. So it started in 2018. And up until that time, I had never attended a pro cannabis advocacy event. I had never attended anything having to do with politics or policy or people. I never had. I use the product, and I can certainly talk to people about that. But I never, until I went to the New England Cannabis Convention in 2018 in Boston at the Heinz Auditorium. And when I walked into that convention center and I looked around and I saw hundreds of vendors, I think there was 350 or 400 vendors.
Wow.
And I go, whoa, this is a big business. I had no idea. And I really didn't have an idea. I had watched a lot of YouTube videos when I got my medical card in 2013. And I'll give Green Flower credit for this because Green Flower, founded by Max Simon out of California, had by far the best produced online videos that YouTube had to offer for educational purposes. Because the first words I said to the bud tender that I went to in 2013 was, I'm not sure I want to smoke it anymore because I've smoked it for 40 years. And I just don't know if my lungs, whatever. And he goes, oh, I can help you out with that. And, what else you got? And the next thing I know, I've got my edibles and I got my tinctures and I got my pill, my capsules, and I've got my vape pen. I went out of there like the traveling salesperson, right? I had, hey, check out what I got now. That's my journey and exposure to this. Then I started to talk to people. And like I said, over 750 interviews. I started with my podcast called In the Weeds with Jimmy Young, and it had over 250,000 downloads in 3 years. And I was very happy with that. I love doing it. I had to have this issue, however, about giving away my talent, giving away my production experience and not charging people for it. Because I really do believe, as a broadcaster and as a public figure for many years, I'm providing a service to those that are watching, because the product of all media is audience. It's how many downloads, how many eyeballs, how many times, reach frequency, how many views, right? All that stuff is the product that's broken down into a unit of measurement called a CPM, cost per thousand. And it goes for newsletters. How many emails do you have? How many downloads have you had? That's the product. Whenever people say to me, oh, the product that you're doing is news and cannabis education, and I go, it's not. It's the content that drives the audience, that develops the product, which is the people that follow and share. And that's really what I've been doing. So I gave it away for about 5 years. And then I started working with some business people that really understood that I was giving it away. And then I ran out of money when I got debanked. And I could certainly talk about what that feels like, getting debanked. And then I ran out of money in 2023. And I had to dissolve the parent company that was Pro Cannabis Media. And now we're relaunching and rebranding, I guess the word is, to WPCM TV, with no mention of the word cannabis, no leaves, and no green.
There you go. So
And
then
it's
you won't
because
get
the
debanked
SEO,
again?
you know it, we got killed on SEO. Think about it. My URL had the word cannabis in it. My YouTube channel has the word cannabis in it. My Instagram is Pro Cannabis Media, at Pro Cannabis Media. All those have the magic word in it. And AI and SEO and algorithms, they don't like that word. So now that we're W, everybody says, what's the W going to stand for? I go, whatever you want it to. I said, but it's wellness. It's the Wellness and Professional Cannabis Media Network, if you really want to get technical about it. But we know that cannabis is a niche industry now as part of the wellness industry. And the wellness industry, as with supplements and all the herbs and spices that are out there, it is huge. It's probably 100 times bigger than what cannabis is already projected to be. And as cannabis grows, so will that wellness community. So I know entrepreneurs out there that have started wellness-facing content creative platforms.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
You mentioned you got debanked, which actually brings me to my next question, which is when you're building in markets like this, you face resistance from traditional funding and banking sources. Talk to me a bit about getting debanked, how
It's
you survive, and what you do next.
Yeah. First business account that I opened up was at the same bank that I had my personal account at for about 10 years. I'm going to throw them right under the bus here. It was Sovereign Bank. And because they're out of Spain, they're a Spanish-based bank. And because it went to Sovereign to Santander.
Ah, yes,
Right?
Santander, I
Okay.
know. Yeah.
So that was my bank. And then they found out that I was in the cannabis space and I was taking money from the cannabis industry. Therefore, they stamped my account with an MRB classification. Do you know what MRB stands for? It's okay if you don't, by the way. It's marijuana related business.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So I learned that lesson. And then I had to find a cannabis friendly bank or cannabis friendly credit union, which I did find. And I was with the Greenwood Credit Union for five years, and it was great. And I think I got charged the $50 a month service fee. And we could do all the banking. And I never had to go to the branch. It was all online and electronic and all that neat stuff. So that really was a great experience. But it was the year of 2022 that was the worst year of my life so far. And what happened was Morgan Stanley, I'm going to throw them under the bus too. Morgan Stanley allowed me to borrow against the portfolio that I had inherited when my dad passed in 2014. And then they saw a check that got written to that account to Pro Cannabis Media. And then I got a call from the Morgan Stanley folks saying, we're going to have to liquidate you and kick you out of the bank. And I went, what? What are you talking about? You're a cannabis company. And I go, I'm not touching the cannabis. I'm working with the industry and telling their stories. Why is that wrong? You're considered an MRB according to the banking industry. And I said, the banking industry screwed up then. Okay. But I can't fight City Hall, nor can I fight the powers that be that control the money in our world. I went from a $500,000 portfolio down to just over six figures, and that was gone in a year. And that was that for the parent company, for scaling it. We couldn't get any investors even when we tried. You can't get funding unless you have 3 months of positive revenue. I had 18 months of break-even revenue in the middle of that run between 2019 and 2023. However, not having any more capital or anybody. And then, oh, yes, I'm sure you're familiar with the market correction that has happened to the industry about 2 years ago, where the capital stopped flowing into the industry. People were wary of it and all this stuff. and yet it's still grown. It's the revenues continue to grow. Granted, sale prices are coming down because there's so many fascinating to this industry, and one is learning about supply and demand. If the demand does not reach the supply, therefore those prices are going to come down. And what's going on now? And here's the other thing that our fine and politicians and didn't quite take on this one, that if you limit the messaging, positive messaging, educational messaging to the masses, okay, they're not going to grow the market as fast as a lot of people thought. When they first came up with all these regulations, they thought there would be lines out the door for days, weeks, months. They said, "Oh my God, we're going to be making millions of dollars every month." And it's like reality hits. Okay, you still have about the same amount of people using cannabis every day. It's about 20% out of the, which is it's a pretty decent number, but you can't get that to 50%. If you had the opportunity to tell the stories of the people that have used cannabis to change their life or save their life, and turn those into a series of public service announcements, commercial television and radio can't take them. They wouldn't put it, they can't take them. So how are you going to grow to the masses? It's really a challenge for all marketing people. And it's another reason why the fastest growing group in this space is the 50 plus demo, 50 years and up. The canna curious, those who maybe perhaps tried it in college, okay, and then stopped doing it, or they grew out of it. I love how people say, "I grew out of it when I was a kid." I'm like, okay, whatever. Everybody has the right to do whatever they want to their own bodies. At least I think they do, even though our government has some rules and laws about that as well.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the industry. I understand that I'm an MRB. I think the guy who I told when I asked him the question, "Are you sure I'm going to be able to borrow against my portfolio?" And he goes, "Of course you are. It's your money." And I go, "Oh, okay." I said, "And I'm an MRB. No, we don't care about that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And 2 years later, I get the call. "We're going to have to liquidate your portfolio." Yeah. So that was a tough year. Because I had my ID stolen that year. I had the 22-year personal relationship end that year. And I'll tell you why. Very simple. When she asked me the question, "It sounds like you're more committed to your business and your industry than you are to this relationship." What do you think I said?
Well,
Yes,
I mean, you still have your business and you don't have your relationship. So I think I know which way that one went.
correct. And it's been horrible because I miss the family. I miss the kids that I helped raise. I miss her. And it's been tough. It has, but I've had a lot of therapy in the last couple of years, and they're telling me to embrace my loneliness, embrace the fact that you don't have to run everything by your partner that you live with or the person that you're married to by law. It really is about you. And I can adapt to that. Okay. I'm not happy. I find out who my real friends are. I moved 45 minutes away from where I had grown up and where I had lived for a good majority of my life, just outside of the Boston area. And I moved outside of the Worcester area, which is the second largest city in New England, Worcester, Mass. And it's been enlightening. And I also have a water view, and it really is very peaceful where I live. And I every day, the first thing I do is I go outside of my deck and I just look at what I'm living next to. I breathe the air. And then I usually go in because it's been so freaking cold. I really want summer to happen, but
Hey,
yes.
it's summer. It's
Well,
today. I think it's 70 degrees today.
and it was 70 degrees earlier today. And I plan after this interview to take my daily walk because I'm now able to take my daily walk because there was quite a time over the last couple of years where I couldn't walk a quarter mile, maybe. And then I had to turn around. Now I'm going the mile and a quarter loop around my apartment. And I get to look at that beautiful pond that's at the base of a dam that was built in the 19th century, the Wachusett Dam. It's pretty amazing when you think about how in the world did they get this going in 19th century with these boulders the size of they're like 5 by 8 foot boulders. They're huge, right? Somehow or other they got it done. And
Cranes, man.
and I get
Beautiful
to look at
invention.
the roots of their labor, if you will, the fruits of their labor. So
So let me ask you. You can probably tell from my backdrop. I love a good book. If you were to tell a founder, "Hey, this is a book you should read as somebody who's an entrepreneur," fiction, nonfiction, whatever you want, to make you better as an entrepreneur, what would you recommend?
Is it Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich? Is that the book?
Sorry, what?
It's so there's. I'm pretty sure the guy's name. Should I Google it while I'm on? I think it's Napoleon Hill. Think
Okay.
and Grow Rich. It teaches you
Think
how
and
to
Grow Rich.
think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as an entrepreneur. You can Google it if you want, because you're probably more savvy at that. And I'll probably push the wrong button and end up blowing up this whole interview. But that one is a no-brainer to me.
Oh, yes. From 1937. I didn't remember it was that old.
I'm not that old either, but it's funny. Do you know what else happened in that year?
1937. Yeah, there was a small contretemps in Europe.
Okay. And how about the Cannabis Tax Act?
Okay, I was thinking of something a little better known than that.
Yeah, again, anybody in cannabis knows all about Harry Anslinger and the first Federal Narcotics Bureau chief, because he was a racist and he held that position from 1930 to 1962. And he was funded by Misters Mellon, DuPont, Carnegie, and Hearst, who are really the barons of our industrial revolution in the United States. I was a history major, which I keep telling people, do you know what history is? No, what is it's old news. That's why I'm so comfortable in a newsroom, because I knew we were documenting history of that day. And my vision, okay, has always been, I want to build an army of multimedia journalists and podcast hosts who are documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. And I accomplish that every week with the production of my newscast, which is called Cannabis Coast to Coast News. And I'm lucky to have Elena Pinto, who is a network quality anchor, as my main anchor. And she gives me 30 minutes a week. That's what she does. 30 minutes a week to read my scripts that I write for her. And she gives me the deadline. And we do it on Zoom. In fact, out of the 1,400 videos that are on my YouTube channel, I'd say 1,200, certainly a huge percentage, are all created by Zoom. Because when everybody went home for the pandemic, right, and learned how to use Zoom, I went to my office every day because there was no one in my office other than me. There was no one in my office. There was 2 other people in the entire office building. And there was a new Chinese and Japanese restaurant that had a full bar on the ground floor. And they were able to deliver to me sushi and drinks to my door in my office. Why in the world would I stay home if I had that situation, right? So I learned how to use Zoom as a news gathering tool and a content creative device. And that's how it all started in 2020. And then I'm being the idiot that I am. The fall of 2020, when we had 0 followers, 0 subscribers, I did 6 hours of live talk shows, 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours on Friday. And then on Friday at 6 p.m., we would run the news show, because I've been doing a news show for cannabis since 2019. Yeah. So I'm out. Look, that's my story. That's my vision. I go to sleep with a smile on my face every night because I feel like I've accomplished something and I'm sharing. And I hate injustice. Race has played a huge role in this vilification of this plant. And I learned so much now about, I'll be honest, I did not know that the prison system was private enterprise.
Yes.
Honest to God, I didn't know it. And then I find out it was, and then I find out that law enforcement had quotas to fill every month to fill. And what do you think they do? They profiled Black people in the cities to arrest them for possession, and they filled up the jails. It's disgusting to me. It is it's one of the most disgusting things I've learned about the history of America. And I'm sick. I get sick to my stomach about it. I really do. It's unfair. It's not right. And yet people say, oh, no, it's right. This is a drug. It's a scourge of... No, and no, it's not. Richard Nixon. You know who that is?
Yeah, I'm not that old. But
Well, I know. I appreciate that. No, I just never know. You're in Canada. Richard Nixon was the only president that resigned from his position. I think actually that may not be true. I think certainly he was the only one in my lifetime that resigned from that position. And he's the one who created the Controlled Substances Act. And I've been on record for 5-6 years, that act needs to be rewritten because the scheduling is a mess. And Big Pharma was a big player in the scheduling of all of those drugs. And to put cannabis alongside heroin and LSD is, again, unfair, unjust, stupid, ignorant. Want me to keep going? You get it. It just pissed me off beyond. And I've learned quite a bit. And Nixon didn't like those long-haired hippies, and he certainly didn't like people that didn't look like him.
On that note, there's a positive end. Let me ask you, Jimmy. People want to find out more about you, find out more about what you're doing with Pro Cannabis Media. Where do they look you up online?
Yeah, so I prefer everybody to go to LinkedIn for my profile, and it's Jimmy Young. LinkedIn is relatively friendly to the cannabis industry. There are others out there that have tried to be that and haven't been able to succeed, if you will. That being said, procannabismedia.com is still a live URL, and it's where the first playing of our newscast every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern is available. Plus, guess what? We've got an app. We've got an app that's free to download, and that's also, so at 9 a.m., it's available on the Pro Cannabis Media or PCM Space TV app. Put it up to the screen. Oh, look at that. There you go. That's the app. And that's the latest news. That was the news from 2 weeks ago, because we hadn't taken a break all year. And I said, we're not doing a news show on Memorial Day. I need a break. So I didn't do a news show. And by the way, I'm sitting around on Sunday. I had nothing to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had nothing to do. What can I do? I'd really like to do something. Anyway, it's a labor of love as far as putting this show together. And I'm so proud of the 20 plus correspondents that give me a 2-minute video every week that answers this question. What's the most interesting thing that happened in the cannabis industry in your state this week? 2 minutes. I don't want more than 2 minutes. And trust me, there are plenty of people that take on the role of correspondent, and they write their scripts and they get their teleprompters and they start reading it like an anchor. And I have no problem with them doing that. And I'm more than willing to work with them on their on-camera performance. But that's not me. I'm more than happy to have them just answer this question. And I have probably 3 or 4 now that do not script. They literally hit record, talk to that little green dot, and that's their report for the week. And they do a great job. That's my story. Pro Cannabis Media, PCN Space TV is our app, and LinkedIn is also our go-to source for posting and what have you. But we also have a channel on Roku. We have a channel on Fire Stick, Amazon, under the Citizen Green TV network on those over-the-top television distribution sites. I'm sure you've heard of those outlets. And of course, YouTube is still my go-to. And the only place I look at the analytics is YouTube. And if you ever saw Elena Pinto, you will understand why my audience is 35 to 64 and 90% male. She's absolutely gorgeous and smart and funny. And now I get to write to her personality. So I'm even having fun with that.
Phenomenal. Jimmy, thanks so much for showing up today. If you have not already liked or subscribed to this channel, every week we share more insight from great entrepreneurs just like Jimmy. So make sure you do. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.